Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So with the UCAS deadline fast approaching, I thought I'd make a video on all the different things I took into consideration when I was choosing a university to go to for when you get your offers and have to make that decision yourself. Okay, so when you've then actually received the offers for the universities that you apply to, you can take everything into consideration a bit more and dig into the details as well. So the universities I applied to for film, filmmaking or film style were twice at the University of Kent. I applied once for a year abroad, once for a placement year. You do not need to do that. You can just apply for one or the other, or even just for film, because you will still have the opportunity to go for a year abroad or a year in industry even if you didn't apply for that degree specifically. But yeah, so I applied to Kent twice, to Sussex, the University of Sussex, University of Hull, the University of Stirling and the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. So the offers I received were all unconditional except for the Royal Conservatoire. I was unsuccessful there. But my unconditional offers all came because I had already been out of school. I'd taken a gap year for a year, so I already had all of my results. And usually in the UK, you apply and then you get your results in the summer. So don't be disheartened if you get conditional offers, because they can turn unconditional once you get your results. So after receiving my results, I then looked at all the universities in a bit more detail and I started to take into consideration the whole university. So I started looking at the campuses, if I liked the way the campuses were. What I particularly liked about Kent University, about Kent campus, was that it was very green, and I hear so many people name this as a factor, but it's really nice that in the summer you can be on Tyler Hill. So there's this huge hill in front of the library, loads of space that you can also take walks around campus and you're in nature really, and it's really nice, and I really like that about the campus. Secondly, I'd suggest then also looking at the accommodation if you're planning on living on campus. I also recommend taking into consideration all accommodation. So don't go straight for the ensuite rooms. You don't really need one. Let's be honest, probably most people do not have an ensuite room at home and you're sharing a bathroom with your family anyway. That is basically exactly what it's like in student accommodation. It really isn't a big deal and it works out fine. So if you want an ensuite, great, go for that. If you can afford it as well, take one. Don't let me stop you, but also take into consideration a room with shared bathrooms. It's fine really. Besides though looking at the rooms and if you like the way they look, also take into account the tenancy agreements. So what I found in England with most universities is that the tenancy was 39 weeks long, whereas in Scotland I think they were 42 weeks. But take into account that you're not going to be there probably for Christmas. You might go home at Easter. If you live nearby, you might even go home every second weekend. So you don't need an even longer tenancy agreement than you already have, because the year will end after 39 weeks anyway. That's just a minor detail really to keep an eye on. Next thing to take into consideration is the location. So for example, how easy is it to get from the university into town to do your shopping? What are the shops like that are nearby? Will you be able to actually get all the food you need or get stationery or clothes or whatever in the town that you are at? Or will you always have to travel further away from the university to get those things and make unnecessary travels in that way, take on unnecessary expenses and also waste your time having to go somewhere else? So the next thing to look at is travel. So as an international student, this one was particularly important to me. Bear in mind how you have to get to the university. Number one, do you have to fly? Is the airport close? How far is it to get from the airport to the university? How easy is it to do that, to make that travel? If you're not used to traveling alone, maybe, is that a journey you want to take on? Just those kinds of things. Then if you want to focus on the course even more, look at all the compulsory and the optional modules. So for example, do they focus on specific areas of work that you want to focus on? So if you're interested in editing or directing or producing, is there something that you can do in your course that will lead you in that direction? So what I did is I literally wrote them all out for all the universities. I wrote out all the compulsory, all the optional modules, and then underlined the ones that I think I would enjoy based on the description that was given on their page. And then I counted which ones, how many I'd underlined for each university, and sometimes it was quite similar, sometimes it was shocking though. So for Stirling I maybe underlined 3 for a year, and then for Kent I might have underlined around 10 modules that I would enjoy. So there's then quite a bit of a difference there as well. That might help you make your decision as well. Obviously that is then also the time just to in general look closer into the facilities and compare these with one another from university to university, because although they're similar they might vary slightly. So do they have cameras, do they have editing suites, do they have green screens you can use, do they have sound mixing studios, that kind of stuff. So this is quite a big factor that I took into consideration, and it's money. So I'm not quite sure how this changes now with Brexit, but coming as an EU citizen to Scotland, you didn't have to pay for tuition fees. The Scottish government covered that. However, if you come from England as an English student to Scotland, you still have to pay tuition fees, same coming from Scotland to England and also international or European to England. So the tuition fees for each university is £9,250. That is not a small amount of money. This is really something that you need to digest. But I think although you need to take the money into consideration, do not let it dictate your decision. Now this is obviously, I'm very privileged being able to say that I was able to make a decision like that I still wanted to go to England despite the money. But I still think it is very important to take that aspect into consideration regardless, just to sink in how much you are actually paying for a university degree and to be aware of that as well. The next thing I looked at more were the societies. Now this is something that I think is very, very important and a major factor, especially if you're living on campus. This is also something that has really helped me this year during the pandemic, because you're doing all your work, all your uni work in your room or at the library, but you're constantly only in one place. And joining a society at least means that once a week you can get out of the house and do something that brings you joy and that makes you happy or gets you moving. And also it's just a great opportunity to try something new when you go to university. Make sure they have a society that speaks to you and that you want to join, and also make sure to check that that society is still active and still running, so that when you get there you can actually join that society and it's not been shut down. The next thing that I really looked at was that the universities offered a placement year. So for me personally, the film industry is a very complex industry. You need to know people in the industry to get in more easily. So for me, doing a placement year was an opportunity, or is an opportunity, to do a full year of practical work, build your repertoire, build your portfolio, and maybe also get some connections that once you graduate you actually know some people that might hire you, because ultimately that is the aim. Anyway, so now I wish you loads of luck in applying to the universities and hopefully getting the offers that you want, and then making a final decision in where you actually want to go. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer them as well as I can. If this video was helpful, make sure to leave a like. Feel free to subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!